Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Empowered Educator. Hopefully, you had an amazing couple of weeks. I didn't release an episode last week. I do want to apologize, but life just lifed, and I wasn't able to get it done. And I never want to bring you mediocrity, if I can say that word right. Mediocrity. I can't. I don't want to bring you not my best. And so I am committed to only bring you excellence. And this week's podcast or episode definitely is going to be excellent. We are moving out of March and into April, which means end of quarter 1 for the calendar year. And in our schools, we're definitely in that final fourth 9 weeks as we are wrapping up the school year. It's a wild time. I will let you know this week has been a little bit crazy for me. I walked into this week supporting teachers, multilingual programming. I'm part of the leadership team. I'm not the principal, but work on that team and have a lot of responsibilities in that area and had to make a pivot. Went to my principal and said, please allow me to do this because this is what needs to happen. And I now am going to be a sixth grade language arts teacher for a few weeks as we are making our final preparation for our state assessment and hoping that my modeling of instruction is really going to support this teacher in the long run because I want to see her be successful. But it's just not there yet. And what worries me is that we are going to have a set of students, almost 100 of them, leaving out of our school year with no value added to them. They're slipping, they're moving backward instead of forward. They're frustrated, they're overwhelmed, their behaviors have been out of control. And in just the couple of days that I've actually been in the classroom, I'm seeing some amazing work from them. So I'm excited to see what growth we see in the next couple of weeks, which you can't perform a miracle in 2 weeks, I don't think, right? And I'm not looking for a miracle. What I'm looking for is stability and an environment that really um, supports them and their success. So stay tuned for more on that. Having said all that, walking into this new situation, I really had to think about these girls and how they had, up until this time of the year, an environment where they were basically running the show. Now, I'm not going to say that means they were climbing the walls and being misbehaving because not every student was, but they were in charge of themselves and making choices that was not moving the needle when it come to student achievement. For example, if they didn't know how to do something and they weren't getting the support and they didn't have grit and perseverance and problem solving skills to figure it out on their own, and they're sixth graders, so most of them don't, they made a choice not to do the work. If they didn't see the importance of a instructional activity or task, they didn't commit to doing it, engaging in it. When I walked in earlier this week and just really focused on what the classroom was for the student from their lens, this was a place where they walked into school, sat in this room for an hour and a half every day, and basically vegged out. Didn't connect, didn't engage, didn't learn, just sat. Some of them slept. Now, I'm not going to say that none of them are doing that right, that all of them are not doing that right now, because I still probably have the 3% that I'm still having to say, nope, wake up, let's get busy, let's get this work done. But the majority, 97%, it's a complete turnaround. But it didn't happen just because I walked in that room. It happened because I focused on the main thing first. The first thing was I had to build trust. Now, these students know me. They were fifth graders the year before I was at the school. Some of them are in a multilingual program, so they work with me indirectly or directly. I'm coaching this teacher, so I've been in the classroom. I do duties around the building. Some of them know me, but just because they know you doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to trust you. I was now walking in a different capacity. And I said to them, I'm going to push you. You're going to work harder than you've ever worked in these next 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever it is, because I know you can get there and I believe in you. Statement number one, that made a difference. Statement number two, as I said, my most important job in the world is being a mom. My second most important job in the world is being a teacher. And if it's not good enough for my child, it's not good enough for anybody else's child. And I held my child to high standards because she was never going to walk in a room and disengage. She was never going to walk in a room and be a behavior concern. And she was never going to walk in a room and choose to opt out. And I'm not going to allow that for you either. But I also want to allow me not to give you my best because that's what I would want for her. That conversation changed everything. Now I was human. Now I was somebody who cared about their success. And now I was somebody who was committed to helping them learn. They're asking questions when they don't know. They're taking risks. One student said to me this week, she raises her hand, and I said, okay, well, what do you think? And she says, well, can I just try? I said, of course, just try. After class, she said, we don't get to just try. If we don't know the answer prior to you coming in here, we felt defeated. They had to trust. They had to know that I was there for the right reason. And then finally, what's making a huge difference is I'm celebrating their wins. And if they're not winning, I'm telling them why they're not winning privately, but we celebrate publicly. So I shared with them how, as a principal, my first campus had almost 1,100 students. And I felt it was extremely important on Fridays that we did all of the announcements in the morning from one location in person. 100 students, 1,100 students coming into the cafeteria. That's a lot of kids. And their teachers, of course, were there with them. But that first year, their behaviors were not where we needed them to be. So I needed to be able to get to them, right? If the teacher couldn't reach out and touch them from one side of the line, I needed to be able to reach out and touch them from the other. So I put on this big production and I said, Miss Dixon loves attention. Look at my cute clothes. Look at my cute shoes. Don't you want to see those every Friday? And they were all like, yeah. Blah. I said, great, because I like to strut my stuff and I need a catwalk. We went through what is catwalk, da, 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 and I said, this is my catwalk. So I always kept an aisle in the middle so that, once again, it was to control behaviors. However, if they were looking in my eyes and I was looking in their eyes as I was talking on that microphone, we were making a different kind of connection, right? So I had a catwalk, and that's how I did Friday announcements. I did it at my last school, and I did it at the middle school that I was at. It works. So it's Thursday, I say to the students, it's time for us to celebrate. Let's build a catwalk. So now we have a catwalk at the front of the classroom. And at the start of every class, the first 5 minutes, I put on music. And if their name gets called because they did great on their exit ticket from the day before, and great means they passed it, they walk the catwalk. I'm going to tell you, yesterday, I'm in my third class, so my fourth period, lowest achieving class in the grade level. Been working with them a few extra days because that was where this all kind of started. One student consistently fails. And when she gets discouraged, she puts her head down, she ends up falling asleep. Actually performed well on her exit ticket. And when I announced her name, after the shock, the smile, that she had on her face because she got to walk the catwalk was absolutely priceless. The kids cheered for her, and she smiled and participated for the entire class. Now, it doesn't matter what's going on anywhere else in that school building, but in that classroom, when I'm in there with them, those students trust me. They trust me to do right by them. They trust me to build an environment where it's safe to take risks. And they trust that I'm going to see when they're doing well and guide them when they're struggling. That's how you build trust. So if you're working in a classroom right now, y'all, even if the rest of your school is falling apart, you build that trust with those students because they will walk over fire for you if they know you care about them, believe in them, and you'll support them. All right, as you go into next week, have an amazing week. Let's wrap up this year strong. Let's keep building a culture in our classrooms that really, really supports the highest levels of student success. I will see you next week on another episode of The Empowered Educator. And if you need support from me in between, you can head over to the uncommonedu.com platform, get signed up for our membership, or reach out to me directly. See you all next week.